Hey, APSM students. If you spend the next 5 to 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes with me, I'm going to show you some great tips to revise your IRR. So here's what I'm going over tonight. Title case, establishing the credibility of your sources, putting your sources in conversation, integrating your quoted material, paraphrasing and summarizing, and the works cited. So some of these comments I know you received on the first draft of your IRR, so you'll want to pay attention. I'm not going to read every word on the screen for you, so I also suggest that you pause the screen and take a little time to read yourself. Title case, number 1. So this involves what you want to do, what you want to capitalize in your title. So if I just Google title case, um, I'll come up with the Google quick results with this right here. What is title case in MLA, which is the style we're using. And it'll tell me that in a title or subtitle, I want to capitalize the first word, the last word, and all the principal words. But I don't really know what that means. So if we go down a little further to this website, Title Case Converter, and I'm going to click on there. And I'm going to enter like the title of my paper. Let's say it's something about seminar students engaged in the classroom setting. Always. And then I'm going to select MLA down here, right? Because that's the style we use, and click convert. And what this website will do for me is show me which words should be capitalized if this is the title of my paper. And if you mouse over the words, it'll tell you why as well. So I could click copy and go back to my paper and make sure that I have pasted the title in correctly there at the top and all the words that should be capitalized are. So use this for your English papers too, please. Okay, back to what we're talking about tonight. Establishing the credibility of your sources. So on this slide, I am going to read the beginning of it to you. Professor Angela M. Housen from the University of North Carolina analyzes the effectiveness of technology and student collaboration in her 2014 article in Psychology in the Schools. So right there, that's how the credibility has been established, by saying that she's a professor and where she works. As well, the student went the extra mile and made sure we knew that the journal was relevant. Because it's called Psychology in the Schools, I also know that that's a journal title and peer-reviewed. So this is a good job by this student in this example. Moving on, putting your sources in conversation. Many of you might have gotten a comment about this. So I note here, you can see just by glancing at the slide that there are two sources, one by Terry Buss and one by somebody whose last name is Budnick. So right here, contrary to Budnick, Terry Buss's 2009 article, Business Survival in Rural America, a 3-state study, states that. So that's what we mean by putting the sources in conversation. In this case, they are contradicting each other, right, in contrast. But that doesn't always have to be the case. So in my next example, if you look at this slide and take a little time to read it, you'll see there are 4 different sources used here. But and it might look like a lot, but all of them are talking about similar ideas and similar things. So what this student has done is they've really done their research and were able to build off statistics in one source and add them and compare them to statistics in another source. So take a few minutes with this one and see what you think. I also wanted to use the same example to talk about paraphrasing and summarizing, because in a lot of your papers, you've just dropped giant quotes in. And in this example, you can see the student has really done a nice job paraphrasing and summarizing, but still using the internal citations, right? Instead of just always quoting from the sources. But speaking of quoting from the sources, a lot of you are dropping the giant quotes in. So I'm going to read this example to you and the next slide about integrating quoted material. And the reason I'm going to read them aloud to you is because I want you to understand that these examples show how you can logically and also grammatically mix in the words of someone else with your own syntactical construction or sentence construction. So here we go. Some regions are nearing the tipping point of losing more jobs to machines than creating new jobs. And when jobs go away, the cultural cohesion of a place is destroyed. A report from Jerome Mark, an Associate Commissioner for Productivity and Technology at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, describes how experts contend that recent innovations represent that new techniques for maintaining job security will be essential. Really, it's 2 sentences, they're grammatically correct, and they sound like one person wrote them, but when you read them, you know we're mixing in the words of experts. Here's a second example of that that also does a good job with credibility. Carolee J. Adams, a contributing writer for Education Week, specializing in higher education, agrees that middle schools are increasingly looking for ways to expose students to careers because it not only encourages them to plan ahead, but it also allows them to understand the relevance of what they are learning and stay on track, thus improving student behavior and motivation in class. That's just one sentence. It is grammatically correct. And you see the student has actually taken 2 different parts out of Carolee Adams' article and integrated them into her own words. So one more thing, so stay with me here, and I want to talk about the Works Cited page. What I want you to know is that when we score your final draft of the RRR, all of your AP seminar teachers can glance at a Works Cited page, and we will make an initial judgment before we get into it. And when I look at this one, initially, I see that there are hanging indentions. I see that the words Works Cited are centered and in the same font and size as the rest of it at the top. And I see that it is alphabetized, and on the first glance, it looks like it's all done correctly. So that's going to give me a great first impression of this Works Cited page. And then you should know we are going to look at every single entry and compare it to what's cited internally in your paper, and compare everything that's cited internally in your paper and make sure it's on that Works Cited page. We actually just keep flipping back and forth because the College Board does that too when they get your real papers. Okay, so that's it for tonight. Go back and rewind and pause on those screens, right? And good luck with your IRR revisions. We are really looking forward to reading your essays.